Welcome to the DNA Talks podcast, where we take on the mission of unlocking the code of your genetics. This season is all about you, upgrading your health, not just on the surface, but down to the root cause. Join us as your clinicians of the DNA Company investigate your DNA and beyond. The intention of this podcast is to enhance your lifestyle by changing what is within your control. This does not substitute the medical advice given by your personal doctor, therapist, or other healthcare professionals.
Bonjour, mes amis, and welcome to this edition of the DNA Talks. Today, we're in for a treat. We're going to be exploring dementia, its prevention, and the art of how you go about doing that. I have on my podcast with us today, Julia Lundstrom. Welcome, Julia. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation. So for our audience's awareness, Julia comes to us as the founder of Simple Smart Science, which has been in operations about 14 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And yeah, the focus of care there is dementia prevention as well as brain health optimization. And you do this upon 10 different pillars of brain health. And what I love, at least the humanity of it all, is how all of this got started. It was very much inspired by your own personal and family experience. And so I wonder perhaps, since that is your origin story, we start our podcast there. Do you want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to start Simple Smart Science?
About 15 years ago, I remember it was beautiful summertime, and my dad is from Sweden, and his family was still there, his sister and his brother, and his brother got diagnosed with cancer, and his sister was struggling with memory issues, and that she hadn't quite been diagnosed yet, but it was right on the cusp. And so my brothers and my dad and I all decided to go over there. And I remember being on this boat, and we were going out to this island, and she had a little cabin on, and she remembered my dad, no problem. And she just kind of looked at me multiple times throughout the boat trip and said, "Who are you?" And again, she hadn't really been diagnosed yet. So this was really, really heartbreaking. And I could just see my dad's ashen face, his face just fall, that she couldn't remember us. And so throughout the weekend, there was multiple times with a cabin that she built with her own hands. She couldn't remember how to get to the bathroom. And so very shortly after that, she got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and about not even a year later, she couldn't remember her own kids. And she, fortunately, looking back, it's a blessing, passed away from Alzheimer's within 2 years of getting diagnosed. So I know, like so many people, you go from 1 minute knowing this vibrant, beautiful, beautiful woman, to the next minute, she's frail, her hair is stringy and long, and she lost so much weight, right? You could barely recognize her, and they just get this blank stare in their eyes, and they're just gone. And so I dove in head first. At the same time, my brother in his 40s had a heart attack, and heart attacks were rampant in my family. I lost 2 uncles to heart attacks. My dad's had 3, multiple bypass surgery, that sort of a thing. And they put him on statins. And statins can have a very severe impact on your memory. And so between my aunt and my brother, we were already hired guns working for another health company. And we thought, well, why are we doing this for somebody else? Let's go start something around memory and brain health. And that's when we started Simple Smart Science 13, almost 14 years ago. And really, we were looking at the preventative side, right? Because when you dive into the science, it is considered a preventable disease. But once you cross that line, and I know Dr. Dale Bredesen is doing amazing work with getting people to reverse it at some level, or at least stall it, but it's not curable, right? But it is preventable. And so that's where we really started getting into this. It's not, and as he says, there are 36 different reasons for memory loss. And so, medications being one that my brother was struggling with. Right. And then for my aunt, I still don't know what it was. I wasn't at the time, knowledgeable enough to do any analysis with her like we do with our clients now.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to this passion for me, because if you fast forward about 5-6 years from there, my mom started showing signs of dementia. And I remember my brothers and I and my sister-in-law, who's a primary care physician, we were all sitting around a kitchen table, and we were kind of joking about it lightly, but also, having a talk around, is this something more serious like dementia, or is this just that she's lonely, right? Or she's just wants the attention and wants something to talk about when she repeats herself all the time. And then so this was 2018. And when you fast forward just 6 months, we can go into great detail about this, but it turns out she had mold and she had this huge rash on her arm forever. So we moved her into this other apartment, and also to be closer to my brother. And then her boyfriend of 6 years died within 6 months. He got cancer and passed away really quickly. And between the grief, which we know causes massive memory issues, and the stress of the move, and of course the toxicity of the mold, which we found out a lot later, she fell into full dementia. Now, unlike my aunt, who, like I said, gratefully passed away very quickly, my mom is on the long, long road. So she's on year 7, going on year 8. And it's, for those that know this and experience it and see it in their parents or their grandparents, to walk into somebody that you love, that raised you, that took care of you your whole life, and all of a sudden they don't know who you are. From their standpoint, I can only imagine this stranger walking in and holding their hand and hugging them, and who is this person and how scary that must be. But from our standpoint, I mean, it's still the same voice, the same face, the same smile, the same everything, body, but there's nothing left. And again, it's just that blank stare. And so that really lit a fire under me to know that I want to go help other people prevent this, because my mother, love her dearly, but she's not someone who really put herself first her whole life. She took care of everybody else, but wasn't putting herself first. So
Never heard that story before.
Yeah, right? So when she started showing signs, I put her in Dr. Bredeson's Recode program. She came and lived with me for a few months, and she went from 19 to 21 on a MoCA score, which goes from 0 to 30. So that's a pretty significant jump. 26 to 30 being normal and 15 being full dementia. And she really, she made such great progress, but then she wanted to go back to her home, and she wouldn't even take a supplement. I walk in 3 months later into her apartment and open the cabinet, and there's all her supplements just sitting there untouched, and food rotting in her fridge. And it just escalated down this path. So there was nothing I could do for her. There's plenty of people that want help and are willing to do the work. And that's where we created our programs, our brain health programs, in order to help the people who want help, right? Like I as a caretaker and as somebody whose mother and aunt went through it, like, I want to save them, but you can only save people who want to save themselves. And so that's a lesson I've had to learn this last couple of years, because I want to save everybody, but we know we can't. And so that's really where we started this. And we, every year we kind of added on, meditation's really important. You got to you got to be able to control your brainwave states, and then breath work and breathing's important, and breathing through your nose, and, not breathing through your mouth at night. Random fact, you actually get more cavities from breathing through your mouth at night than you do sugar. It's just one of those random things. So, every year we kind of just created so that's another brain health pillar, and then another brain health pillar. And of course, nutrition and sleep and exercise, those are the basis of everybody's. But, we start to look at everything and the science around it to help people prevent it. And so, that's how we work with people now. And again, it's people who want help and want to save themselves.
And I
want to save them all.
I think, to me, Julia, one of the more common and unfortunate elements of this horrific telling of your aunt and of your mother, right, is this as a caregiver having to bear witness to it, to watch this decline of two really strong, vibrant, often women, absolutely men, but statistically speaking, more often women, caring for them in that sense of futility of, I wish I could either go back in time or I wish that I could be more useful in this moment. And I see that inspiring a lot of people. I saw that within my family. We watched my grandmother go through this, right? And so I see within my family a desire for this not to happen. And what I find very interesting is, as great as that desire is, people really struggle with not only what can you do about it, because I think there's a degree of people kind of being like, yeah, if it's within my genes, if it's within my family, it's inevitable, I might as well just enjoy life now, and they kind of retire from that hope. But separate to that, those that want to do something about it or believe that they can do something about it, sometimes it feels like they're trying to climb up a very, very sandy hill, right? In that they want to do something, but they're never really able to grab onto anything concrete because there's so many things that you can do. You just mentioned, right? There's 36 some odd reasons that you can lose memory. Alzheimer's comes about not because of a singular gene, but because of these multiple lifestyle things. And so people arguably get very overwhelmed, right? How do you start meditation along with breath work, along with diet, along with da 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 da? So I think one of the interesting points of your clinic, at least, and this is what I really want to talk about with the audience, because I want the audience to know, A, this is preventable at certain stages. And separately, how do you go about that prevention? Like, how do you actually grab onto something firm so that you're doing something as opposed to getting lost within the sea of overwhelm of trying to do everything?
I think that's a really good point. And, that's what we really specialize in, is helping people find that. Because I think the best part about working towards preventing something, right? Prevention is a hard concept. Like, I may or may not get it. Why am I doing this? Right? The best part about everything we teach and that we work with clients on is that it helps them today. It helps them be their best version of themselves today, especially if we talk about the caretakers. We liken it to, everybody has this battery, right? Their energy battery, their brain's battery. And what happens is as you don't get enough sleep, as you're not eating the right diet, eating a ton of processed foods or too much sugar, or even going so far as eating too fast, right? Or, eating too much. You're overweight, you're super stressed out, your brain is fried because you just can't take any more, right? It just drains your battery and drains your battery and drains the battery and drains the battery. And what happens is not only do you get burnout, but typically it causes a disease, right? In functional medicine, they talk about everybody has a bucket. And so the more bad habits you do, I always think of it like green slime, right? Like, you're filling up this bucket with green slime with all your bad habits. And your good habits are the ladle, and they're ladling it out. But if you're putting in more than you're taking out, it's going to overflow and you're going to get disease.
Yeah.
And so the best part about what we're teaching now and what we work with clients on is that, first of all, we really focus on, we do a comprehensive brain health assessment for everybody. And we focus on what levers are going to get them the fastest results so that they're motivated to do the rest. But we're only working on, there are 10 pillars of brain health, and in those are, massive amounts of information. And we actually we have an academy, and it's 4 months of just studying the basics on level 1, right? But we don't want to overwhelm our clients like that, right? We want to have where they focus on the one thing that's going to get them the fastest results, so that they start to charge their battery a little and they start to feel better. And then all of a sudden we work on the next thing. And now their battery's getting charged a little bit more, and they're feeling a little bit better, so that they can start to tackle some of the other issues. Because we need our doctors. Our doctors, they're great at acute medicine. You go in with, a cut, a slice, a head trauma, whatever it is, right there. Maybe not head trauma, that's a hard one. But, if you go in, heart attack, whatever, they're great at acute medicine. The issue is they're not amazing at chronic disease, right? So, for me, I can't wait for the day doctors will prescribe meditation over prescription drugs. Or I can't wait for the day doctors will prescribe weekly massages over prescription drugs, or I can't wait for the day that, they'll prescribe personal trainers over prescription
Yeah.
drugs, or before, maybe not instead of, maybe it's before, like eventually some people do need that. But I just really can't wait for the day that doctors have more tools in their toolbox than just a prescription pad, because you go to them and they're like, yeah, you need to lose weight. Right? We know that a lot of your issues are going to resolve when you just lose the weight. And then that's it. They walk away and they're like, we'll see you in 6 months. And so that's where we take them and we embrace them and we work with them very, very intimately to get to know them on a weekly basis, and massive accountability, because as humans, we're social creatures.
Yeah.
We're not meant to do things alone. We're not meant to, we've created this very independent life in the West and in the States. We're not really meant to live like that, right? We're not meant to raise kids on our own. We're supposed to have a tribe and our family. And we're also not meant to make these massive changes that some people need to make on our own. It's too hard. We need the support. We need the accountability. And frankly, that's one of my 10 pillars of brain health, is the social component. Yeah. So there's actually an 85-year Harvard study that shows, and of course it was on men because 85 years ago, that's all they did studies on, but it was
and we're returning to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the 85-year Harvard study showed that the biggest predictor of longevity and health and happiness, which of course is the most important out of all of it, right?
Yeah.
Is your social connections, and how deep and rich those social connections are. So loneliness, which I've recently read that 56% of all people over 65 are lonely and isolated. And that is actually hurting their brain health more than, potentially they're only getting 6 hours of sleep a night, right? Like, so you have to look at all that. And it's things people don't think about, right? And it's not something a doctor's going to talk to you about. So that's where we really work with people and very hands-on and give them that rich experience that they need. 98% of our people finish our programs. So, and we are diving in and looking at inflammation. I mean, inflammations, we have our full program just on inflammation because it's such a major component of all health. There's some doctors who think that it's 85%, 90% of all diseases, right? So it's those are all really big. I mean, it's a really big, but that's what I want to drill down, is like, we don't overwhelm people. We want to focus on the one or two things that are going to charge their battery, bring them back to a point where now they can start to take in a little bit more, right? Like, you can't take in all that at once. You just take in a little bit and take in a little bit more as your energy increases and as you feel better. And then you're motivated to do it.
Yeah. I see the wisdom in 2 cents there, right? The wisdom of, let's give them a few small wins so there can be traction, as well as energy to get more. It's not reasonable to ask someone to run a marathon if they're struggling with walking right now. So let's get those feet in front of the other. But I also really value this idea of really incorporating humanity and community back into medicine and back into the care plan as central to it, as opposed to like a nice to have, if you will.
So it's definitely the community and the social component, and it's also the purpose-driven component, which a lot of people don't think about either. I love it. In Japan, they don't have a word for retirement. They call it a change in purpose, which I absolutely love, because so many of our people come to us and they don't have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. They don't have a reason to go to bed at the right time that they should, right? To protect their circadian rhythms. They just, they just want to sit on the computer, scroll through their phone all night, because they don't have that purpose that drives them. And we need purpose as humans. And it doesn't have to be a job or whatever. It could just be taking care of your grandkids a couple of days a week. So that's, we also drive that. We had a client, Susanna, one of our very first lovely clients, and she was a caretaker for her mom full time, and who had Alzheimer's, that lived with her. And Susanna was a giant wreck when she came to us, and her mom was only sleeping about 2 hours at a time at night. So of course, Susanna was only sleeping that. And so her husband would take care of her mom during the day, and she would do the night shift. So she had no relationship with her husband, and she could never see her grandkids because it was just too much. And so we actually worked with Susanna, who then went and worked with her mother. And of course, it was kind of a, pass-through thing to get her mom to sleep 5 to 6 hours a night. Yeah. And that one little change, talk about just one little change, was life-changing for Susanna, right? She actually she could sleep, so she could actually be awake during the day, spend more time with her husband. And then we just made these little tiny changes, right?
Yeah.
And we gave her a purpose, because one of her biggest purpose, she just wanted to go back to taking care of her grandkids twice a week.
Yeah.
And she couldn't do it because she was so exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
And within 6 months of working with us, she was able to go back to taking care of her grandkids twice a week. Her mom, even though her mom was decaying, she had better quality time with her mom because they weren't so exhausted all the time. And when her mom finally did pass, her battery maybe wasn't full, right? As a caretaker, I don't know that you're ever going to be full, but at least it was half full, to where she didn't have to go through the bottom to come out. She could just come out. Right. And so, and like many of us, we never talk about, but it's a relief when they pass. Right. I know every time
there's a social stigma. You're not allowed. You're not supposed to think that way.
You're not supposed to think that way, but this is not a quality of life for anybody. And it is hard to talk about, but I do every time I see my mom, I just kind of send her a lot of love and just say, when you're ready, Mom, you can just let go.
Yeah.
It's okay to let go.
We have such an adversarial, or maybe not adversarial, but avoidant relationship with death in the West. I think
we do,
based on medicalization, and that medicine deals with keeping you alive, but the moment you're dead, it's like, we step off, but we've really relegated death towards doctors. And so it's interesting, we've assigned them something that they categorically don't want to be in charge of. And so we don't have these conversations, and it makes that caregiving journey all the more difficult, because at the end, when you finally get a little bit of burden relief, right? You're not allowed to express that, and you're not allowed to be grateful for the time that you had. Yeah.
Well, we allow our clients to express that. We had quite a few clients,
which is beautiful. With, right? Again, it's bringing that humanity back to medicine. I'm curious how you go about. So there's a lot of common elements between what you do for your people, offering community, offering precision medicine, and offering kind of a health plan that's really accessible. I'm curious how, for each person that you're creating this plan, how you're personalizing it to them. While there's going to be the themes of dementia prevention, brain health, community, and purpose, how are the plans between each person differentiated? How are you truly offering that precision care there?
Yeah, so again, the biggest thing that we start with, without getting too detailed, but it is, we do a massive intake with clients, and we meet with them. We spend typically an hour and a half with them the first time, just talking through everything that they could possibly need and want. And then it's really up to us. We create a brain health roadmap to really say, okay, if we're going to be working with them, we have 3-month programs and 6-month programs. If we're going to be working with them for this amount of time, where are we going to start? What's going to have the highest opportunity for this client to make those changes? Traditionally, I'd say the majority of people, it's either sleep or nutrition. Because they're 5-6 different pathways that can lead to Alzheimer's, dementia. If we look at the body and inflammation, vascular health, keep going, toxicity, all the things. So we're really looking at what's causing this person to have this super low battery today. And sometimes it's just getting them to say no. And then I know, right?
It's a big word.
But that's not what really differentiates us. What differentiates us is, when someone comes into to work with us and we say, hey, you should go change your diet. We actually offer a live brain healthy cooking class that they can go attend. If we say you're super stressed out, your brain waves are all over the place, your brain is fried, like you need to come down, you need to be able to learn to control your brain waves and come down, meditate, breath work. We offer a live meditation class and a live breath work class. We have up to 2, even 3 classes now a day, a toxicity class, your movement class, so that they can actually go do the work with us. So we say, go do this. And so, you don't have to go out and find a place to go do movement or meditation or whatever. You can just come do that with us. And the best part about it is it builds this tremendous community of people. and they're, they're scared when they first come in, and they're embarrassed. A lot of times their memory just doesn't feel as sharp as it used to, or they're just not who they want to be anymore, because they're fried from taking care of their parents or their grandparents or their kids or their, jobs, or too much stress. And so they come in, and it's really that safe space of, hey, this is other people doing this too. Let's all do this together. They have accountability groups with us where they meet and they talk and they get to know each other, and it's a lot of banter. And it's sometimes things people you would never imagine. We had this man, David, who came in, and he was salt of the earth guy. He was Wisconsin farmer, and he had sciatica. And he was getting to the point where the only thing he could do on the farm was sit on the tractor. And so that's where he spent most of his time. And it was getting to the point where he couldn't even twist, right? He couldn't even do anything like that if he wanted to reach anything. And the doctors were saying, your tractor days are limited. And so he was finding himself just sitting in front of the TV most of the evening, and just getting depressed. So we brought him in, and we started working with him. And now with him, it was nutrition to start, and working on an anti-inflammatory diet, and really, sciatica, we're looking at getting his inflammation down. And we didn't think he was very traditional. We didn't think he was going to do the work. And you're like, all right, I'll give it our best shot, and fast forward 6 months later, and this is a man, and he is attending a session a day because he just loves coming in and doing the work. He is doing downward dog in our yoga sessions. And the doctors, and we hear this all the time, the doctors are astounded. They're like, we thought you were never going to twist again. Here's a man who's doing yoga, right? And Wisconsin farmer doing yoga, which is just like mind blowing. And we hear that so often. Some people, they come in and they're like, oh, I really thought I was going to work on my sleep and exercise. And the thing that surprises them the most is the meditation and the breathing and everything else, that when they come out of it, they're like, wow, that really, really made a big difference. Now, we're not only focusing on that, but it's when they're getting exposed to all these things, and they have the community to support them, and they're not, the first time they show up, they're a little nervous, right? But then they hear talking, and then the second time they show up, it's easier. And then, fast forward a month or two, and they're like, wow, I don't know how I live without this. And so people usually stay. They just, keep coming back to the wellness gyms even after they're done. So it's great. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I find too, when you're in a lot of pain, new things become not necessarily attractive because you just don't have that mental, physical energy to bring in new and to learn, right? So creating that space in particular that inspires that and makes it accessible for those that just don't have the energy to get there, I find really, really impressive.
Finding that energy or time to get out of your house and drive somewhere, and signing up for another membership, or walking into 6 different rooms of strangers, which some people love, but you're paying for those 6 different things versus just having it all together. So it's great.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit around how you're incorporating genetics into what you do. Because I know, at least in my own practice, it became really pivotal when you would get complex cases, because it would give that starting point. It would say, genetically, you're very susceptible here. So while we have to work on the whole ocean, our first cup is going to be in this space, because genetically speaking, you're very suboptimal, and there's probably a lot going on here, right? And we'd test and validate that was a true story, but it became that point with which I would work from. Talk to me about how you're incorporating genetics.
It's a key component of what we do. It's actually how we know you guys, is that we use your testing, because we love your testing. So for the clients that come with us for 6 months, because it just takes that much longer, right? I mean, we're looking at clients that, all the supplements in the world, everything is great, and knowing your genes are great. But if you're still sitting on the couch for 6 hours a day eating processed foods, like no supplement in the world is going to fix that, right? Or not. So we have to work with them first on kind of the foundations. And then we test for their genes, because now we want to take it deeper. Right. So we test for their genes for the clients who work with us for about 6 months. And one of our coaches on staff is a geneticist. She actually just went through your program, which is great, and got certified there in order to read the genes more effectively. But I think what happens is it's such a huge component to see your own body and the individual side of
Mm.
what's going on with you. I know for me, my whole life, I've been a cardio person, always. And running and all this stuff.
Oh
I get my
dear, I know where
DNA
this
report
story is
back, and
going.
it's like, no, you should be doing 60, 70% weightlifting.
Yeah.
And that's really shifted everything for me, honestly. And my workouts, they're a lot shorter. They're not necessarily easier, but my metabolic health has improved because of it. We all fall off the wagon and we go through these periods. Earlier in the year, I went through about a 3-month period where I was embarrassingly so not sleeping very well, eating very poorly, because we have these periods in our life, and I'll have them again, and everybody has them, right? We fall off the wagon, we have to get
Of
back on.
course.
And for the first time in my life, after going through a 3-month period of just massively falling off the wagon, I didn't gain a single pound. It was crazy. And I think it really had so much to do with me shifting my metabolic health. Now, of course, that we put everybody on continuous glucose monitors as well, because metabolic health is so important to brain health.
Yeah.
But the DNA component, to learn that about yourself and to change, or I don't methylate well, looking at that, I don't absorb, bind, or transport vitamin D well. So I got to take it multiple times a day, a certain type, right? So there's a lot of things you learn with that. And even your personality and your moods, which are so on point. And it does give yourself a little bit of grace to know that. But there's so much around the health part of it that is so huge for us and your brain health, because so many people, they get, I have it in my family. I have the gene, right? The APO4 gene, or 4 copies of, or whatever. And they just give up.
Yeah.
When in fact, your genes, if you look at epigenetics, it's about like every single cell in your body has the exact same copies of DNA. But it's whether or not, your skin cells are only going to turn on some of those genes, right? To be a skin cell and brain cell, same thing. The others are shut down. The same thing is true for your APO4 gene, which typically isn't even, they've now coined it the Alzheimer's gene, but it's really an inflammatory gene, right? It's an inflammatory marker for the most part. And so, you have that, I have it, but I think genetically, if we can keep it turned off by doing these lifestyle and these environmental changes, which is why we focus so hard on that. I know a lot of people focus on the blood test and all that stuff, but those don't matter if, like I said, you're not doing the work, if you're not moving, if you're not being social. All that blood test in the world is not going to make a difference. So that's why we focus so heavily on that. And the DNA testing tells us exactly where in the lifestyle we need to focus.
Yeah. And I wish wish that was something people understood a bit more about genes, in that I think when people hear, oh, I have the ApoE4 presentation, or maybe I have a mutation in my BRCA, right? So cancer, Alzheimer's, these are big, big words that people get very scared of. And they hear and see potentially this is in their genes. And there's this assumption that that is inevitable. But I wish they could see the people who have these variants. There are people with ApoE4, which is the risk for Alzheimer's dementia variant. There's people with 4-4, so 2, a double header, right? That increases your risk, I think, tenfold. They have that, and yet they don't have dementia. Now, what differentiates them from the 4-4 that does have dementia is what they've done with their life. And this is what we're seeing in cancer stories as well. This is what we see in autoimmune stories as well. Most people have the potential for something, but not everyone will present with that potential of something. And that's so important. And that's where programs and clinics like yours come into play, acknowledging the reality that, cool, if you have a 4-4, our hill is going to be a bit steeper, but we still can navigate that hill.
Yeah. And of course, there's no guarantees in life, but when you want to do everything you can to not make that happen. And again, prevention is such a hard concept for people. Like, you're not going to convince a 40-year-old to stop all their bad habits because they may get dementia at 85. Right.
Yeah.
But what you can do is say, listen, you're creaking and aching every morning when you get out of bed. You're feeling the inflammatory in your joints, or your 55-year-old is all of a sudden, it's like, wow, my fingers are really tight, or my wrist hurts, or my knees are swollen, or whatever. Those are when you can just address it and say, listen, we're going to fix this acute issue for you, which isn't acute at all. But that's when you can bring it back home. That's why we have our inflammatory program, because when you can bring it back home and say, yeah, we can reduce that, or we can help reduce the pain of your sciatica, things like that. It's like, oh yeah, I definitely want to do that. And, oh, by the way, all the side benefits are you may not, we're going to help prevent dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So it does become great. And I know like your report is so monstrous. And so we typically will bring it down to a cheat sheet, like a 2-page cheat sheet on what they, again, need to focus on first, because you're going through hormones and sleep and all the things. But I also like the sleep component, so we always, I think this is what happens, doctors aside, is we give this blanket approach. And we say, hey, take fasting, for instance, you should intermittent fast every single day. Well, for me, when I put on a continuous glucose monitor and could see what my body was doing at every minute of every day and how food and sleep and exercise and stress was affecting me inside on my metabolic health, I was able to see that eating, waiting till 11, 12 o'clock to eat my first meal was putting too much stress on my body. And my glucose would spike tremendously and come straight back down, which is the opposite of what you want. Exact same food, exact same meal at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So, 12 hours fasting, maybe 14 on the outside. Usually 12 to 13 is my max. It's just this perfect rolling hill, perfect score of 10 on the glucose monitor. And so we know, yes, intermittent fasting for most people is great. At what level, right? And so the genetic testing tells us things like that too, right? It really tells us on your sleep, how much sleep you would be optimal for you. I'm a 9-hour person. I can't help it. I wish I wasn't. But my battery is the fullest when I get 9 hours sleep. And I just have to be okay with that,
And that makes
and if I get 9 hours sleep,
hours better, right?
Yeah. And if I get that and 1 or 2 nights, 4-year period, 100% of people have insomnia. So if I go through a period of bad sleep, I'm able to recover better because I know what I need for my sleep. Right. And to see that genetically and it kind of gives yourself that permission of like, well, this is who I am. And now I'm going to change my life so that I can be optimal in my genetic space, so I don't turn on the genes that I do have, I have the APO4 gene, so I know I have that. And so I want to do everything I can not to turn that on. But more than anything, it just makes me feel the best today. It makes me have a full charge battery every single day so I can be the best mom, so I can be the best, in the relationships and to my friends and to my family and for my company and my clients and my employees. I can be there for them in a way where I couldn't if I had this low battery, if I wasn't optimizing my body with my genes. And I think that when you're talking about that individual approach, whether it's the DNA test, which is incredibly, incredibly useful, or even something as simple as a continuous glucose monitor where you can see exactly. I mean, for me, I was shocked. A fight with my husband spiked me 75 points, which was the highest spike I had. More than food, more than sleep, more than exercise, huge spike. And it just shows you how much stress is affecting your body every single day. Honestly, from that, I stopped watching news because that stressed me out. And I could see my glucose spiking just watching the news. And that's what it's meant to do, right? It's meant to give you that reaction.
That's how
I don't care what side you're on. Right. I don't care what side you're on or what you're watching. Like it's meant to invoke that chemical reaction in your body. I'm like, watching this is not worth destroying my health. Not at all.
You need to stay informed, but there's neutral ways with which you can do that.
And exactly. I usually go search for the information myself when I want to go look up something.
I think one of the more unexpected and powerful things that I've seen genes do is give people awareness that there's not something deficient or wrong with them. And what do I mean by that? So for the person who comes in and who is overweight and has been struggling with weight their entire life, they have this experience of a moral failing of it's just willpower. I should be able to overcome this. I have failed as a person because I haven't done this, because I'm told just to eat less, exercise more, and this would be fine. And they come to me because clearly that advice hasn't worked. And most people I can imagine on this call, if they've struggled with weight ever, they can attest that just, while there's truth to it, that exact prescription doesn't work. And I think one of the more powerful things that I've seen genes do, and I can see this applied in so many different spaces, just weight's an easy application. They're able to say, okay, well, I have genes that when I eat carbohydrate predispose me towards gaining more weight. And I've principally been trying to stick with a vegetarian diet that's very high in carbohydrate, perhaps. Or perhaps I have genes that predispose me to never feeling satiated. And I don't have a strategy to kind of buffer that and to ensure that I figure out how to feel satiated. And so that's why I continually reach. Or maybe I have genes that, as you've mentioned, like mental emotional triggers. I get into a fight with my partner, and the first thing, because I don't have serotonin and BDNF, and because I'm more sensitive to the noradrenaline, the first thing I do is reach for comfort, which is food, right? And so once you're empowered with that very nuanced understanding of self, it's no longer a moral failing. It's no longer, I wasn't able to stick to lower calorie plus exercise. It was like, oh, well, my body's built this way and I wasn't supporting it that way. So of course. And then once you're able to shift to make it much more personalized to you, it's no longer a moral failing. It's just a poor strategy. Right.
Yeah. And I think poor strategy is a really good key here, because it's not about saying, oh, well, throw my hands up, I can't lose weight. Genetically, this is too hard for me. It's saying, okay, no, it's that awareness, right? Knowledge is power. So it's that awareness of, okay, it is a harder struggle for me to lose weight, and especially on a low calorie diet, carbohydrate diet, whatever it is. Genetically, if I made these switches, it would fit more in with what my genes want and what they need. And then that's going to make it easier for me. And we see that all the time. I mean, we never talk about it, rarely talk about it, but one of the best, side benefits of putting your brain health first and doing the work we're talking about, and eating for your genes, moving for your genes, is that people lose a ton of weight. I mean, we've had people lose hundreds of pounds. I mean, we had one woman lose 300 pounds with us. And, she wasn't,
and that wasn't the primary goal.
That wasn't primary goal at all. Now, of course, we knew that so many of her issues would resolve with the weight loss, right? Cholesterol, pain, all that stuff does resolve a lot when you lose that weight. But it isn't the primary goal, and it's not what we're talking about. But it is an amazing, nice little side benefit for people when they're like, wow, I lost 13 pounds in 3 months. Like, this is great. So and it's really just working with your body, because we are all so individual. And what's fun to see are those genes to say, yes, we are individual. So the next time your friend comes to you and says, hey, I did this, it's great, you should try it. Not for me. That doesn't work for me. Or even your doctor, unfortunately that happens all the time, is you come in and they're like, well, you need to go do this, or even if it's intermittent fasting or whatever, well, let's test and find out if that's right for you. Or this supplement, or hormone replacement therapy. Well, let's test and find out what's best for you. So and with the DNA or hormone panel, like, you're able to see that, right? You're just able to see what is best for you, so you can go in really packed with power. And the only unfortunate part is most people aren't familiar with it, and they don't know how to work with it, right? So it's like you're fighting back with your doctor, your functional doctor, whatever. It's like, no, really, look, like, this is mine. And they're always so impressed by it. They're always like, wow, how can I incorporate more of this? And we've actually had conversations with other doctors saying, like, this is how we do it. Go talk to the DNA.
I'm excited for, and I'm grateful for clinics like yours who've put in the energy to understand it, because then it incorporates it as a power towards what you do. Because I think I'm going to offer, it'll be standard of care soon enough. But until we get there, right, it takes pioneers like yourself, like your clinic, to be adopting it, seeing the incredible results, and then that's how it naturally spreads like wildfire, right? In the sense of once it works for some people.
So cool about what we're doing in the United States, right? That we are empowering people to take their health into their own hands.
Yeah.
And, like my dad was Swedish. They don't allow that there. It's if what your doctor says is what goes, that you can't go do your individual testing. You can't go to someone like us and get a DNA test or an inflammation test, just specific things to look at, or even order it online for yourself. If the problem is reading the results, right? You always need that support to get through the results and prioritize it, what needs to happen. So I'm very grateful for that. Now, it does cost more, but I prioritize my health over everything. And I know that my just health insurance payments a month isn't going to cover it. So I do spend a lot of money every single year testing for preventative things. And
Test, don't
thank
guess.
goodness. Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago, I went in and got tested and found out that my cortisol levels, I went in and tested because I thought my cortisol levels would be off the charts because I was going through such a stressful period, and, life is stressful. And it was quite the opposite. My cortisol levels were actually way too low. And we need cortisol in our body. And it was heading towards adrenal fatigue, right? Which is thyroid issues, things like that. So I was able to go fix it before it became a thyroid issue, before it became an autoimmune disease. And that's what we need to really get drilled into people, is like, if you're feeling symptoms, if you're constantly fatigued, if you have brain fog, don't just, menopause, whatever, don't just chalk it up like this is just part of menopause, or it's just life. I'm overwhelmed, whatever. It's fine. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
These will turn into diseases. They will turn into things that are going to cost you a fortune in money and time and prescriptions.
Yeah.
And no one wants that new prescription every single year.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where people are headed.
I read this really interesting study, and this speaks to what you're speaking of, where people kind of experience something but ignore it. It was a study that looked at late onset dementia, late onset meaning midlife. It's a new diagnosis, midlife or onwards, not something that had presented in the first part of life. So late onset depression. So a group of people who had, from a mental health perspective, been completely golden until they hit in and around 50, and then they had this severe clinical depression. So it took this group of people and then matched them, who were, from a health perspective, gender perspective, etc., equivalent to them, except for they did not have this late onset depression. And they took PET scans. And what they saw in the people with depression is that they were showing an increased presentation of amyloid plaques and tau protein tangles. I think it was about 30% compared to 15%, and then something like 5% compared to 2%, respectively. Maybe opposite. I don't remember my numbers. Approximately that, though. It was marked increase. And they followed these people, and the people with the late onset depression, approximately 7 years later, started to present with Alzheimer's dementia. So this was saying that this depression was not a mental health condition in the traditional way we think of it, but more a symptom and a signal of dementia coming about. And the science wasn't there. Had they gone to the doctor, we wouldn't have necessarily been able to say, oh, depression means Alzheimer's, and therefore you should be working against it. But we're starting to get to that point now where if you have a new odd symptom, going to your doctor to talk about it is really important, because we're starting to connect those preventative dots. And it's something that should be tended now, as opposed to it'll just resolve with time if I ignore it.
Yeah, I do want to caveat your statement with the right doctors, because unfortunately we still have too many doctors that are, here's a pill, go fix it. But there's so many, there's more alternative doctor appointments scheduled now than regular doctors.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's actually great,
wow.
because you're getting with functional medical doctors, you're getting with naturopaths, you're getting with people that understand that the body is a whole, and you can't just treat parts. You can't just treat your heart. You can't just treat your liver. You can't just treat your kidneys. Like, it's all combined. And so I 100% agree with you. And it is that, like, yes, these symptoms, and you hear these horror stories all the time of people saying, I went in with these symptoms. I had a friend that for 3 years was having these symptoms, and he was massively couldn't sleep, to the point where it was affecting his entire life, his relationships, his time with his kids. He would try to fall asleep. He would sleep for maybe a minute or two, and then his brain would wake him up. And it was really, really bad. And this actually speaks to my heart, because what he finally found out, he found the right doctor and he never gave up. And now, fortunately, he had the financial resources to do so. But he found out that he did have massive mold poisoning. And he had to go through really long treatments for that. But luckily he didn't give up, because everybody else was just like, I don't know, you're stressed out, like fried brain, like whatever. And mold is something that can lead to dementia. My mom had it. We actually think that's what led to her dementia, was that she had mold poisoning from living in this really old apartment building with mold in the walls, because she had that, I think I mentioned, she had this rash on her arm that she covered with a bandage 100% of the time. She said it itched like crazy. And when we moved her, within 3 months, it was gone. So, and then I got her tested in the Recode program, and turns out she had massive mold. So these are things where you don't give up, like keep going till you get the answers and find the right doctor. That's what's great now, is you actually get to pick which doctor you want to go to versus, again, some places, Sweden's the only other one I know. So I lived there for a while. I know, that you go in and your number and you get whatever doctor is available. So it's really nice that we have this for us to use.
I hope too that kind of the numbers that you just spoke of, that more people are seeing within the US alternative or complementary adjunctive doctors compared to conventional ones. My hope is that there's a feedback that then shifts the systems that conventional doctors work within. My part of when I graduated, my first 4 years, I trained under an MD. And what I found very interesting, he was a very integrative, forward-thinking MD, but what I found very interesting about that experience is how handcuffed he was. He knew all this other stuff. He was working with me on purpose, but there were certain things he could not do within his scope. And he would offer incredible regret to the patient of like, well, I can't recommend this, but maybe if you go talk to the naturopath over there, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, they can suggest that. And so I really hope that there's feedback, because I don't like demonizing the individual doctor, because I think there's incredible MDs out there.
And there's no doctor who goes into the field saying, I don't want to help people, right? They all want to help people.
There's a few, but touche.
I can say the vast majority.
Powerful.
Right? They want to help people. It's their passion, but they are starting to get out of the field, because they are so tied. One of our doctors that's on our medical advisory team, he's doing exactly that, because he just can't stand the fact that he has to treat parts. Right. And then he can't give advice outside of what he's allowed to. So he's going to his own, functional medicine practice in order to be able to do it. So it's great.
Yeah. And I'm grateful for their contribution to the pioneering within this space, and your contribution.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kostroman.
Yeah. So, Julia, thank you so very much for your time and your passion and your energy today. This conversation has been absolutely delightful. And audience, I really do hope you hear the central tenets of it, the advocacy of self and the ability with community to get that prevention in there. Julia, do you have any closing thought pearls, any mic drop comments that you want to offer our audience
I think you hit it on with community, just to understand you don't have to do this alone. And whether it's with someone like us or, someone like you, Dr. Kostroman, it's about finding someone that'll help you. And that may be your neighbor, that may be your spouse, like whoever is there to help you and who understands and who is really wanting to make that journey with you. I mean, we do a live 3-day event every once in a while. And it's 15 hours of training in 3 days that people can just come to in a community, right, on Zoom and learn. And that's just do more of that. Like the knowledge is power. And the more you learn and the more you get out of this cookie cutter, blanket advice for everybody that isn't right, and understand your own body and what your body needs, the healthier and bottom line, happier you're going to be. So we like to say, when your brain is the healthiest and happiest it can be, you are the healthiest and happiest you can be.
Oh, That was a solid mic drop moment. I think that is our closing thing. So Julia, thank you so very much for being with us. Audience, if you're interested in Simple Smart Science, we'll make sure in the podcast notes that we have links there. But I would imagine you can also type that into Dr. Google, and Dr. Google will happily jump you there. It's incredible how we've reduced the internet to Dr. Chat GPT and to Dr. Google, and that is our entryway to everything. Probably we need to diversify that as well. DuckDuckGo is a great one.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thank you so very much, audience. We'll make sure we include some links in the podcast. Julia, until next time, because I speculate we'll probably get you back on here. Thank you so very much for being part of this and sharing with our audience.
Thank you, Dr. Kostroman. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Au revoir, mes amis. Au revoir.
Thank you. Bye.